Episode 111 of the Losers Bracket tonight. I swear to God, you'd think we planned this. We're episode 111. Our guest tonight, Jason Lake. I swear to God, things work out such a funny, cool way. Got my normal co-hosts, as always. I have Jerry Lord Jareth Pro Haska over here, Kurt from Check 6, Kurt Carter, the man with the Pepsi bottle in his hand. Guys, how are y'all doing this week? I think we got a great show. We're going to talk a little bit about MLG, a little bit about DreamHack, some awesome things going on in the world of eSports. Man, the arena was awesome. I can't say enough good things about it. But Kurt, how are you doing this week, sir?
I am well. Well, busy week. Lots of good stuff going on. I'm incredibly excited to have Jason and Sheth on today. I have
Sheth as well, yeah.
Yeah, we're going to have Sheth on later in the show, hear about his sort of takes on the arena. I keep on wanting to say Winter Arena, and him being the player analyst over there. So, should be good stuff. Jerry, how about you, buddy?
I've had a great week. I mean, it was a great weekend. We did have a lot of great esports. We have two great guests tonight. Overall, I am fantastic. It is a good time. So, Mr. Paradise, why don't you bring in our guest right away, and let's get right to it.
One thing before we bring in our guest, I do want to let everybody know, I put this out on Twitter earlier today. We are actually going to continue the trend that we've been doing the past couple weeks. We actually have 2 beta key giveaways that we're doing tonight. We're actually going to be giving away a Dota 2, Defense of the Ancients 2 beta key for the first hour. We're actually going to be giving away a Ghost Recon beta key from Mr. Prohaska himself later in the episode. So the way to win is head over to Twitter, send out a tweet, let people know that we are live, include @Losers Bracket and a link to the show. Anybody who puts a tweet out that includes @Losers Bracket and a link to the show gets entered to win. We will randomly select from the people that have done that met that criteria, and if you do that, you could win a beta key. So help us let people know the show is live, and you might actually reap some rewards from that. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. Thank you to Mr. Jerry over here for helping out with one of those beta keys, and then also VVV Ninjatic for supplying the Dota 2 beta key.
Can I make a confession? Can I make a confession?
Okay.
I actually gave away my beta key to somebody else in another giveaway. So this beta key actually technically is from one of the VVV applicants who had an extra one.
Oh.
He goes by Bullet. So this is actually courtesy of one of our apps who said, I want you to give one away. So this shout out goes to him. And
Cool.
those are good things to do when you're applying to be in VV Gaming. So we'll give that away later. So yeah, I just didn't want to take credit for that beta key. So
Even better. Cool. That's very cool. Shout out to Bullet for that. So yeah, @Losers Bracket in your tweet, link to the show, win some cool stuff. With that being said, speaking of cool stuff, we got Jason Lake, CEO/founder of Complexity Gaming, with us tonight. Jason, welcome to the Losers Bracket. You know, this is like the 4th time in the past 2 months we've had multiple Jasons on the show. I tell you, this is getting confusing. But how are you doing tonight, man? Welcome
gonna be
to the
tripping
podcast.
up all over.
I'm saying.
I'm doing great. Thanks very much for having me. It's pretty funny. It's episode 111. Is that what you said?
Yeah, it is. It's round
so
111.
you couldn't. I guess Jerry. Jerry's always got it working in the background. He probably planned it that way, right, Jerry?
this is what I figured. If I did it like this, then I every day I watch my Twitter and I see who follows me. And tonight I got to ask, will Jason Lake finally follow me on Twitter? So I feel accomplished and like I'm part of the community.
Am I not following you?
So yeah,
I know.
Don't you love how that works? Don't you love how that works? Whenever you bring it up, it's like, dude, what? No, that can't be.
No, I don't want to do that. Damn it! Now I'm ordered.
I thought it was, and it sounds like a lame excuse. And I've heard this from other people, so I know it's not just me. But I keep I'll follow someone, and I just assume it's set in stone. And then I'll notice somewhere else I'm not seeing their tweets, and I don't know. I don't think technology likes me all the time, and I've had at least probably 6, 7, 8 people that I've seen tweeting via the Complexity account, and I'm like, why isn't that on my personal feed? And I don't know. Somebody probably has my pass and is unfollowing. But I have just followed now live for all your viewers, and it should be set in stone.
All right, I'm done. That's all I needed tonight. Kurt, you can take over.
GG.
The entire purpose of the show has been accomplished. Good night, everybody. See you later. We're out of here for the night.
You know what amazes me is the fact that Jason. I mean, you haven't been on Twitter for that long, but you have 1,500 followers. I think that's a disgrace. To be completely honest, it should be more. Sorry, that's just.
Maybe years ago, if I hopped on, maybe it would have been different.
Yeah. That's how it works, man. That's how it works.
Yeah. So
before the executives started, I've taken a much more behind the scenes, behind the curtain type of role.
Let's get to that. You know, you started a great history, and if we can get right into it, I want to start out how I first knew of you. This is back in 2007 with it talking about the Championship Gaming Series. Complexity, obviously, a part of that. And, I mean, our purpose tonight isn't really to go into the Championship Gaming Series. I think that's been covered a lot, and we talk about it a lot. But at that time, you know, there were a few organizations out there that, you know, Craig's organization, obviously. I know he's going to be coming on your show, and we'll talk about that later, too. And, you know, there really hasn't been an esports without Jason Lake, to be honest. I mean, you've been here since the beginning. You're one of those founding figures. You're a character in your own right. And you know, hopefully we get to introduce Jason Lake to an audience. You know, a lot of our audience are console players who have come out of the esports scene, you know, over the past 5 years or so. And they're learning a lot about what happened before CGS, the decade-long history of StarCraft, and obviously the historic tournaments that were and in some people's minds, like Kurt still are, but I'm going to say its time has passed. Counter-Strike 1.6. So if you want to give everybody a sort of beginning, how did you first get started, and how did Complexity get started? Because I think it's one of those iconic brands, just like EG, that's been around forever and has seen a lot of things. So
I'll tell you how he gets started. Just like everyone else that's important. Counter-Strike. Everyone that's important, get out of here.
Counter-Strike or Quake, I guess.
There we go.
I mean, apologies in advance if there's any of our viewers that have heard this story a bunch of times before. I'll try to keep it quick. Basically, I grew up a gamer. I was always, you know, into games way back to Atari and Sega Genesis and Apple II products, and wherever I could get my hands on a video game arcade, I was always in there. And then I graduated high school, went to college, and then went on to law school. And during that time, I was so busy with other things. And gaming, honestly, wasn't, I don't know, it was kind of like a lull, I felt. And I just kind of got out of it. And after law school, I graduated, and I had some time after I finished my bar exam just to kind of relax for a while and just, kind of chill after a rough couple years of studying. And during that time, I traveled a lot, and I got a new apartment in the Buckhead region of Atlanta with a great view overlooking downtown. And I met a cool dude who lived in my building, and we started hanging out. And he was a real tech guy. He worked for IBM, so he always had the best computers. He had to get the super fast DSL. Was the first guy I ever knew that had DSL in his own place. And he started just playing Half-Life. So I started playing Half-Life with him, just oh, man, I haven't gamed forever. This will be great. So I got the game, and I started playing online, and I'm like, wow, this sounds so stupid, the people watching the show. But when online gaming first came out, it was holy, I could play this guy's in Chicago, and I'm playing him in this game. It was a mind-boggling thing back in the day. And I really liked it, but it wasn't that big a deal. I had a lot going on. And then Counter-Strike came out. And I went downstairs to his place one day. We were going out to meet some friends. And I walked in, and I looked, and I said, what the hell is that? I was kind of disappointed, he wasn't playing Half-Life. And I was like, what? You're moving on to another game? And he was like, this is Counter-Strike. This is the next big thing. So I started playing it, fell in love with the game. Every free moment I had, I played the game. I eventually opened my own law firm. It was just me in there with a computer, a copier, and a printer. And whenever I had any free time during the day, I'd lunch and stuff, I would play Counter-Strike. And then I built my firm, got one secretary, got two, got three, got another lawyer, and and still in my lunch breaks when I had free time, I was playing Counter-Strike, and I was a real estate attorney, and actually during the biggest real estate boom, quite possibly, of my lifetime for sure, quite possibly in American history. And obviously we saw recently how that all turned out. But it was booming, and I couldn't keep up with it. And I'd met a bunch of friends socially that were very big players in the Atlanta real estate market. So literally the business was expanding faster than I could really keep up with, which is, what I call a rich man's problem. It was a great problem, but I didn't have much more time for Counter-Strike, and I got bad. And I was just kind of reading a website one day, just stumbled on a Counter-Strike website, and all of a sudden I was just like blown away. I'm like, wait, what? Cal Cyber Athletic Amateur League? And I'm like, wait a minute. People play this like in organized teams and like run strats and play for prizes? And I was blown away. Like, this is it. You have those light bulb moments in life. And I was just like, wait a minute. This thing that I love so much, that I'm so passionate about, that I really don't have time for anymore, it's organized. So I decided right then I was going to start my own team. I was going to start playing again. I'm like, this takes it to a whole other level. So I'd go home at night and, built a team around me to play with. And soon my competitive spirit just really took over, and we weren't good enough. And, my teammates didn't want to practice hard enough. So I decided I'm going to put some business mentality behind this and see where I can take it. It was never meant to be some global juggernaut, in the beginning. It was never meant to have multiple games, and we've spent over $1 million flying people around the world in the last 9 years or so. And it was never intended to be that. It was just I wanted the best damn Counter-Strike team around. And it took off from there. I fell in love with esports. I met tons of great people, built a staff and a website and a community. And we were fortunate through tons and tons of hard work to have, good success in Counter-Strike. And then we started bridging over into other games. That's kind of the complexity story. I sold the brand to CGS and took a position there. CGS, tanked after the second season, and I got the intellectual property rights back. Went into business with Jason Bass and Alex Conroy because it was just too much work. I didn't want to run the entire thing by myself anymore. And today, Alex has gone off to do other things, but Jason Bass and I run Complexity. And when I got it back from CGS, we had to start at ground zero. And, no website, no sponsors, no players. So we spent the last few years trying to build the brand up and maybe regain some former glory, I guess you could say. And today we're doing pretty well. We have some great partners, some exciting players, and things could always be better, but things could always be worse. And, we've made a lot of mistakes over the years. And, the trick, I think, is learning from your mistakes and not making them again. And that's kind of where we are, having a lot of fun in the esports business. I'm still very bullish on the esports business. I still really believe it's going to be a major part of digital entertainment and digital sports heading into the future. So we've put our chips on the table, and we're just doing our best, and we'll see where those chips land, I guess.
Obviously,
I guess that wasn't a short story.
That's a fantastic story, though. I think it's very easy to relate to. A lot of people fall in love with their passions, and this is clearly a labor of love, and it's a passion, and I think passion is part of the Complexity story. It's part of the brand. It's part of, something you started. And I think anybody who has followed Complexity over the years, and even as you said, you had to come back, if you think about it, it's that passion that brought you back, and it's the passion that's driving the performance of Complexity today. And that's really critical. Obviously some of us, maybe you, myself, we're lucky enough to have careers outside of esports, and we're able to fund our own hobbies and do the things that we enjoy. And that's a privilege we have. But that doesn't mean as this grows, there aren't going to be a lot of opportunities for passionate entrepreneurs to come in and make, I think, a really amazing difference. And, these are the kind of stories I think that inspire a lot of those young entrepreneurs to really take those risks, to invest that time, and in many ways, if they have the privilege, some of their own money. So I want to get to, I know, Kurt, you've got some things that you want to ask. And since, Kurt, I really want to get Counter-Strike out of the way now, because I know you're going to ask, and you guys do. Obviously, you've been a fan and watching this for a long time, and that. So, Kurt, I'm going to hand it over to you, and I beg you, please. You know how Counter-Strike makes my ears bleed. Minimize it for me, all right, my friend? Because you guys are like icons of that era, and that's a little bit before my time. So,
this is going to go.
Yeah, I wouldn't put me in the same league. I wouldn't put me in the same league with this guy by any means. But I have a few questions. not necessarily directly pertaining to Counter-Strike, but for people that you went over your whole story there, and one of the things that amazes me the most, and I want to get this question out of the way because it's one of the things that astonishes me the most. You guys have had some ridiculous controversies throughout the years, not necessarily controversies all the time, but problems and utter, failures. Some your fault, most not your fault, and just again and again and again, I still remember when Graphics got kicked out of CPL, for that fight. Wow. Like I would have gave up back then. Like I would have been like, I'm out. Like I am done. So right. with all that, with the CGS, with that, with multiple websites, with multiple teams, with difference and changes of genres, how have you been able to maintain a level of passion to keep doing it? Because I don't know if I could, and I like to think I'm a pretty passionate guy.
Yeah, that's a good question. And to be completely honest with you, there's been many times I was like, all right, this is it. It's time to walk away, spend my time more wisely and profitably. There's been many times, especially when I had my kids and, there was times where between my law firm and Complexity, I ended up selling the law firm because there just wasn't enough money in real estate law anymore. Between all of that, I wouldn't see my kids sometimes for like 12, 13 days at a time because I'd either be at the law firm or the airport. And there was many times when I thought, this just isn't worth it. This is not a wise way to invest the limited hours, that the good Lord has given us all. And I think I've been asked it many times, like why I kept going. And, I kind of look back to my father. I grew up in a very small town in Iowa, very basic values and kind of, the good old days kind of mentality of, I spent a lot of time with my grandparents who lived through the Great Depression and World War II. And I was just basically bred as a young boy with a never give up mentality. It was very much if you start something, you finish it. And a lot of my friends over the years have said, you've taken this one too far. It's kind of pointless right now. And, especially after CGS died, it was like, why? Like, what's the point anymore? And, what Jerry touched on is right. I obviously love eSports, and I'm very passionate about Complexity. And there's also like a stubbornness where I just refuse to let it die. It's become like my third child. I have Allie, Jordan, and Complexity, and that's awesome. I don't know. I love it, and I'm stubborn. I guess are the two answers.
Yeah, I think probably that stubbornness is another thing. Is a thing with a lot of us. I really don't.
I think you have to be a little bit.
Yeah, I don't. I think it's definitely one of those things where, no, I can't go out like that. Like you're kidding me. Like that CGS is just over and I'm going to leave, or you're fucking kidding me. So yeah, no, I completely agree there. Jerry, I'm going to pass it back to you for a few questions, but then I'm going to get a few more.
Thanks, Kurt. No, I think that having immigrant parents myself, I know what it's like to kind of have that. You got to work for everything, and then I think I don't know if this is true for you, but obviously VV Gaming is a little different because we're much more community based, and we look at it a little bit differently. But as I always look to see who the next generation of leaders is going to be in VVV Gaming, to do the things that I'm doing, to share the burden, that kind of stuff, to sort of pass the torch. I think there's a part of me that really feels that sort of like, this is never going to go away. Gaming has changed the way we socialize forever, and something really important is happening in the way that, when you first found that you could, engage online with other gamers. For me, I think it was the first time I found, I was speaking German to somebody from Germany, not too far from where my mother grew up, while playing Call of Duty 2 on the 360. That's where it started for me. And then all of a sudden it was like, wow, this really changes everything. And now today, if we look at just where we are, how international the scene is, how much it's grown, it's such a, it feels good to be in an international environment, to see, what other time in American history, if you really think about it, would you have so many young people cheering on a Korean athlete, right? And here you have this phenomenal finals, or even Thorzane, right? A Swedish athlete. You've got these amazing esports players who have a fan base that's international that rivals, honestly, some real honest-to-goodness professional sports athletes today when it comes to the diversity of the countries and the people that are supporting them. So I think that's fantastic. And I know Kurt wants to hop in. I'm going to ask you a quick question before I give it back to him.
Sure.
How is it for you today, right now, 2012, as far as having seen all of this? And I think you guys have made some really good moves in StarCraft. It was a slow sort of move. And then all of a sudden, bam, you can tell when an organization decides we're going to go big or we're going to go home. And you made those moves with the Korean teams. You decided that's it. Because I think StarCraft was that pressure for everybody, for EG, you got to make that decision. And I think some people like you and EG have played it well. SK Gaming, I don't think has played it as well. I don't want to really talk about that. That's just my opinion. But some of you have kind of decided we're going to go. And now you're starting to get those results and those tournament placings. 2012 today, how is complexity? And more importantly, for someone who has admittedly taken a more backseat role. I mean, everybody knows you in the famous pictures, being the coach of the Counter-Strike team, being there at the events. Life and family don't give you that same opportunity, so you get a little bit different approach. I think the executives is another way for you to have your impulse on it. But let's talk about 2012 today, you and complexity. Where do you see you guys today?
Sure. It's multiple levels in that question. First, I just want to say I completely agree with you when you said, you're in Germany and playing video games. One of my biggest taglines has always been, this is a new digital sport for a new digital generation. One of the beautiful things about gaming is you don't have to be 6'3" and 220 to stand out. I grew up in a very sports-oriented area and family, and you pretty much knew by the time a guy hit a certain age whether he was going to have a shot at really becoming something in, say, football or basketball, the major American sports. And the beautiful thing about gaming is, for the most part, it's a pretty level playing field. We even see, like in VVV has, even people with disabilities can get in there and participate and compete. And I think that's just, really a beautiful thing, and the whole global nature of it, I completely agree with everything you said. As far as complexity, obviously we've had ups and we've had downs. I've said it before, we got a very late start into StarCraft 2, and that was primarily my fault. I still saw StarCraft 2 coming, 100 miles away like everyone else. If you read any gaming sites or follow Blizzard, I knew it was coming. I was just never convinced an RTS would gain any traction in the Western world, which is primarily where we do our marketing activities. I saw when EG picked up In Control after he was on that TV show, the Gamer TV show, and I was like, yeah, I'd like to have him on my team too, because I really like him. I think he's got a great personality. He's very intelligent. But I'm like, what the hell would we ever do with him? Nobody gives a shit about StarCraft in North America and, most of Europe. So I don't know if I was just stupid or I was just old or what, but I completely miscalculated the StarCraft 2 phenomenon in the Western world. I knew it would be huge in Korea. But I just completely miscalculated it. Our budget was not set that direction, and by the time it started exploding, we already had our budget, committed other directions. So we got on the bus a little bit late, and it's taken some time to catch up, and we're still not done catching up. We still have other aspirations and other goals, and our eyes on other players. We really want to make this division kind of our crown jewel, if you will. Obviously, we're very committed to fighting. We may expand there. League of Legends, what can you say? The game is a juggernaut, and Riot's done a wonderful job. The viewership and everything is sensational. Our biggest problem, I guess you could say, or challenge with League of Legends is we typically don't like getting into a game unless we're pretty confident we can be, in the top 3 to 5 at worst in the world. And right now, the CLGs, there's just TSMs and other teams, they have it so locked down that we have a lot of teams approach us, so we talk to a lot of teams. And then we talked to them again 2 weeks later, and they've got 3 new players. We're just like, whoa, wait a minute. Like, there's no stable squads out there really ready or willing, it seems, to challenge at the top. But we still definitely have our eyes on League of Legends. So where are we broadly? I mean, I'm happy with where we are, but not satisfied, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely.
Our most direct, I guess, comparison, as you mentioned a couple times, is Team EG. And I'm not happy where we are vis-a-vis Team EG, because Team EG has done a sensational job on many, many levels. First and foremost, as I said in an interview for Anaheim, you can compare running an esports organization to StarCraft in some ways. And the most important thing is StarCraft, for those that don't play the game, is called macro, and that's kind of controlling your economy and building buildings and things like that. And if you're running an organization like ours, or VVV or many others that you've listed, oftentimes, quite frankly, the most important thing once you have your basic organization developed is financial considerations. And if you don't have that gasoline to drive the bus, you're just not going to keep up with your competition. And we've got amazing partners that we're very grateful for, but EG's got more. And it starts there. And then you add more levels to the cake. They've done a phenomenal job with marketing, phenomenal job with selecting the proper players as far as gaining exposure and marketing exposure for their sponsor partners. And on several levels, I just straight up told Alex Garfield in Vegas, I said, I think you're doing a fantastic job, and you're kicking my butt in some places, but I like that. I like having different competitors around the world that see the growth in the industry that we see. And it's not always great being first, or it's not always great being quote unquote on top. I like looking at other organizations, all different kinds, and saying they are a lot better than we are at A. They are a lot better than we are at B, or whatever. And then we'll try to integrate that into our management team and be like, how can we do this? Like, say, VVV is one of the strongest, most loyal, community-based organizations, as Jerry put it earlier. So what we do in our quest to always become better and never get stagnant is we'll look at a VVV and be like, look at these guys. I mean, look at the people posting on their site. Look how loyal. These guys have been around for years. How can we instill that in our organization? And then we might look at a Korean organization, for example, and be like, look at how these guys train. Like, how do you motivate a person? What kind of cultural surroundings or management or coaching? I mean, how can they get these guys to sit in there 11 hours a day and practice their game until they're so good it boggles people's minds? Is there anything we can take from that? And, as you get older and your pride is kind of settled down a little bit to where you've had enough failure to realize you don't know everything at all, that's when you can kind of look around and take some of those things from other organizations to try to fit it into your organization. You never want to copy exactly if you can help it, but you've got your own message, you've got your own core values, but it doesn't mean other organizations and people aren't doing things a little better than you in different areas. So
I think you're absolutely right.
That's kind of where we are. We're very grateful for where we are, but in no means are we satisfied. And Jason Bass and I, and we'll bring ideas to our management team that meets each week and be like, look at what these guys are doing. We like that. How can we put a complexity spin on that and benefit from that? So
awesome. Well, I'm going to bring in Kurt, if you don't mind. Kurt, why don't we take it back? Because you just mentioned failures, Jason, and I want to bring it back to history because a lot happened from the founding that we started through CGS to where we are today. And I think as you talk about the experience and getting older and seeing some of these things and obviously having been there when I started, looking at the 3D, looking at complexity, looking at the other organizations, picking and choosing and go, you know what? They're always going to be able to outspend us. I don't want to build that kind of organization. I'm going to look at the problem in a different way. So, we got in a way that was the least expensive, wasn't going to burn a lot of capital, was going to be different. And I'm sure complexity is molded over the years, and I know Kurt wants to get to some of this history. So did we decide, no one is covering the niche of the developing players, the communities, those kind of things, creating the fans. And, I've told this to Scott from EG all the time, and I say this, if there's a great player we've developed who eventually we can't afford, we want them to go to the complexity in the EG and say great things about it because we built different brands. And I always get people to say, well, don't you be afraid of only being a stepping stone? I said, well, I'll tell you, there's a whole lot of people on that journey to be the number one, but very few will make it. And many of them will rest their home here in VVV, which is really good for us, sort of to give you a snapshot on how I came there and what sort of did that. So, but yeah, Kurt, I'm going to turn it over to you because I don't want to monopolize it. I know you've got great questions, so take it away, Kurt.
Yeah, so I do have a few history questions, but and this is a history question as well. But I want to hit this one because you talked about it earlier, and it's about EG, and I want to get on a personal level here because speaking as someone who was around, quote unquote, back in the day, and I hate saying that, I sound like a douche when I say that, but quote unquote back in the day, it's funny to me, and I always ask people this, people like you and people like Craig, it's funny to me how things have developed, and you and EG haven't exactly had the best past by any means. But I think all that's, for the most part cleared up now, other than, of course, obvious rivalries. But what I am curious about, though, is that did you see EG coming? Or did they just hit you like a train? Because I remember EG, and EG's been around for a long time, but they were never what they are today until very, very recently. Right. Did it just sort of hit you out of nowhere? And another question, do you think CGS helped that more than anything? With you guys not being around to get some of that extra, sponsorship money and stuff like that while CGS was, had monopolized you guys?
Yeah, I mean, Kurt, you're a wise, sly dog because you know the answers, but we're running a show, so we'll go. Yes, I do agree with you. But no, I don't. Did I see EG coming? Many people today really don't know that during the CGS, Alex Garfield, the owner of EG, was my assistant. He was much younger, obviously, and just kind of wanted to be in the CGS atmosphere, and it just kind of wanted to help out and be involved. And Jason Bass, ironically, a small world, brought him to me and said, hey, Alex is really looking to help somebody out. Do you need an assistant? I'm like, yes, because my last assistant just took a job with CGS. It would be fantastic. So we worked together very closely, and he obviously had 100% full access to my team, and I had to fly back and forth because I was trying to run a law firm and live in Southern California at the same time when we were filming live in the summer. So I was on planes all the time. And I completely trusted Alex to handle everything, and he did a phenomenal job. Thus, I think a lot of that had to do with the hard feelings. After CGS died, my old Counter-Strike team, which was basically like a family, for those that know the story, went and played for him, and I felt very wronged at the time. Wrote basically a blog telling him off, and there was fault to be shared on both sides there. We've completely buried that hatchet. It's just kind of old news, and I don't believe in holding grudges. I don't think it's healthy for anybody. So that's all been long gone, and he's a friend of mine, and I look up to him in a lot of different ways, and he's an incredibly, incredibly intelligent person. Now, did I see EG coming? Yes and no. When CGS came on the scene, there were two American Goliaths. It was Team 3D and us. We dominated the sponsorship dollars. We dominated the tournament placings. We were really the only organizations to consistently send our gamers all around the world. We were the first non-European Counter-Strike team to win in Paris in 2005 for ESWC. I mean, between 3D and Complexity, we were the only brands they approached and the only brands they were interested in buying for good money and putting on TV, and then they made up the other teams. So yes, I do believe that giant vacuum was perfect timing. And I joke with Alex today, who benefited the most out of the entire CGS experiment was EG, because they were able to come in. Now, I'm not saying that to put them down, because just because there's a vacuum doesn't mean you could just walk into some room and people are going to hand you money. Yeah,
they
you had to sell it.
You had
to, you know what I'm saying? But there was the vacuum. because we were very strictly controlled by DirecTV News Corp, as you know, it was a complete different ball game. So we went and got Intel and some of these other things, and that was kind of gave him a great base to start from. But what happened after that, I was a bit surprised. He really did a phenomenal job, him and his management team, because many of those sponsors, as you've said, have really come on recently since CGS has died. So there's no CGS this or that to do with it. He's just got to seriously be the best one-on-one esports salesman I've ever met in my life. And when you look down their list of sponsors, it speaks for itself. Did I think EG would always be a force to be reckoned with and successful? Yeah. I'd become accustomed to EG being a solid part of North American esports, just not a juggernaut. And recently, obviously, they've taken everything to another level. And, you know, I won't go on like the executives type of rant. I could go down checklist after checklist of all the things they really do a great job with. And so I knew they were going to be around and a competitor. I did not foresee what they have become, and you know, my hat's off to them. They've done a great job.
Yeah, I would agree, and I think you answered that question incredibly honest. I didn't mean to hardball you. I just I had to let everybody else know. You know,
Feel free.
So last question about history at least, and I have to. I'm just kind of curious about the old motto for Complexity was you had this thing where it was you wanted to be number one all the time. You talked about that in multiple interviews back in the day. I mean, it was number one or nothing, all or nothing. You know, bring me the pistols. You know, and
absolutely.
And I think you still have that, but you've also changed in the sense of put yourself a little bit more into perspective, and you're not running yourself out of business. You know, you're actually trying to make a sustainable business.
Right.
Is that hard? And I'm just kind of curious because I mean, I'm in a similar position now. I'm trying to, you know, be sustainable. Of course, on a different level. But is it hard balancing not necessarily your ego, but your will to be number one?
And it is ego too. It is ego. I think a lot of competitive sportsmen, either players or managers or whatever, I think a lot of the drive to be number one is, you know, derived from ego. And there's good ego and there's bad ego. Now you have to realize back when I said those things, I was feeling pretty bulletproof. I had become, you know, very successful in a short amount of time, which was pretty much predicted by most people that knew me my entire life. So I just thought this is the way life is always going to be. You know, I invested over $500,000 of my own money, and I was willing to continue to spend that money to do whatever it took to be number one. Today, I no longer have the means to plow that kind of money into Complexity, and even if I did, I wouldn't. It's become more important to me, exactly as you said, to create a sustainable, intelligent business model. And you know, much credit to my partner Jason Bass for, you know, really setting that up and designing that. It's more important to me that when my kids go to college, Complexity is still globally recognized in esports than it is to win a whole bunch of events, boom, 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 and then we just disappear because we go bankrupt, or we disappear, you know, just because, oh, money's gone, we're gone. And as Jerry testified, it has something, I think, to do with getting older, not to constantly harp on getting older, but of course I want to win. Like, when we lose the most minor things, like, I can't tell you how many keyboards I've gone through. I always want to win, but the brand itself and the long-term viability of it, like I said, it's like my third child, is more important. And I've developed a patience. We don't have to be number one tomorrow. The goal is definitely to be considered a top tier organization by anyone who looks at us in esports. in the next few years. But we're going about it much more intelligently, much more calmly, and not just knee-jerking. There's been a lot of Jerry will confirm this. There's been kind of a panic rush to the bank, especially with StarCraft 2, to where crazy money's being thrown out. And everybody knows in the business, we pay well, and we've paid well for esports money for quite a while. But there are just prices we're just not willing to go to, because we feel we can take that money and invest it much more wisely to ensure the longevity of the brand to the staff who's come to depend on what they make from us, and continue what we're doing. So do I want to be number one in everything we do? Oh, hell yes, absolutely. I can't stand losing. I go nuts. I go absolutely nuts. And it's just stepping back and being patient. If you set yourself up for long-term success, the first place trophies will definitely come, and that's kind of the position we're in right now.
Gotcha. Yeah, I agree, and I want to move to the current because I know we're quickly, unfortunately, running out of time. But I do have one last thing to say, and that is I have 3 ex or old COL players with Check 6 right now as a CS team, and I honestly could not be more fucking proud of that. Even 8 years later, I still could not be more proud to say that I have 3 COL players on Check 6. So, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, straight up, they're living legends. I mean, esports isn't that old, and I mean they are. I mean, esports isn't that old, and so you could be their age and already be living legends in our business, and they are, and they're great to work with, and they're great guys, and I don't blame you at all. They're great guys, and I'm glad you get a chance to work with them, and they with you.
Yeah. All right, Jerry, over to you, buddy.
Can I hop in with you?
Well, oh God, Jason, by all means, you never have to ask.
Jason, you're still here?
I know, right? I was gonna say. Well, here's the thing, Jason.
For Jason, we'll talk all night if Jason doesn't say something. So,
right.
By all means, Mr. Paradise, you have the floor.
I have to sometimes wiggle my way in because these two are such huge personalities that I have to feel like I'm here too. I don't just produce; I help host.
I know. I watch you guys' show quite often, and I totally agree with that.
But we actually
these guys are like me. If you give them a mic, oh gosh, they'll just go and go.
Whose idea was this show?
Cut them off.
I know, right? But
remember that, Jason. I'm going to say that to you, Mr. Paradise. I'm going to say to you, you know what? Just cut me off. Stop me before. Cut me off.
Oh my gosh. All right, so I'm going to go over a couple quick things that have been thrown around in the chat because we've got quite a few community questions that are all asking about specific games. And, I mean, we've got the Complexity roster. We've got StarCraft being represented. We've got a couple different fighting games like Filipino Champ, I believe. Dota 2 and FIFA, I believe, are all represented as well. Just a couple different thoughts about other games, other genres, what your thoughts are on them, because we've had tons of people asking about them in the chat. First, and this one's going to warm Kurt's heart, what do you think about Global Offensive? What are your thoughts? Is it something that you're still looking at for the future? I know that your love for Counter-Strike is still there, so what do you...
Absolutely, and not just because it's called Counter-Strike, but it's my opinion that we desperately need a first-person shooter right now. Esports is really peaking in many ways, and it's very, very exciting. But there's so many people out there that really love the adrenaline rush of a first-person shooter, and we just really don't have one. I mean, There's different games floating around, but there's nothing that's stepped in to fill in 1.6's place. Sure. With the game, we're cautiously optimistic. I played it the day it came out, and I was depressed. I was just like, this is terrible.
It was horrible.
I was honestly depressed. I shut it off, and I went back and played Battlefield 3 for a while. I couldn't even play it. They've been working on it a lot, and I've heard it's come a long ways. And I haven't played it again, and I'll tell you why. I want to wait till everybody's kind of like, holy shit, this is it, and then I want to play it again because I was so disappointed with the first beta release. But we definitely hope the game comes back. We would definitely go after the best possible team we could, but Will it happen? I don't know. Right now, we're just waiting, and we're cautiously optimistic.
All right, a couple more genres, and these will probably be pretty quick. There were a couple people in the chat that were kind of anxious to hear your thoughts on Halo. I mean, with the state of Halo right now, you guys did have a team before. I believe it was Triggers Down, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, we had Triggers, and then we had Final Boss.
Right, that's right. I do remember that too.
That
face just said it all. I saw that.
Camera's like big now.
There you are.
That looks a little better. I think it's like the light off this wall over here. But anyway, I love Halo. I always liked it. I didn't play it a lot, but when I got my son into gaming, I kind of wanted to find a cool first-person shooter that didn't say the F word and every other word. So I started him out on Halo 1, and I taught him how to play first-person shooters on Halo 1. We went Halo 2, Halo 3, Halo Reach, Halo Anniversary, and literally hundreds and hundreds of hours of playing Halo with my son. So I kind of fell in love with Halo. I would just say one thing in the Halo community. Numbers speak very loudly to tournament organizers. They speak very loudly to sponsors who pay our bills and Sundance's bills and Jerry's bills. If you want to keep your game around, you've got to raise the bar, because when they look at numbers from StarCraft and League of Legends and some of these other things, it doesn't necessarily matter how good the game is to some people, because they're just in it for marketing and they're trying to get eyeballs on their products. Do I love Halo? Yes. Do I think the Halo has a great future right now? I'm skeptical, just because the numbers can't keep up with other games. It's not that Halo isn't a great game, because it is. I got Halo 4 looking at the end of the year. I can't wait. I'll be out there. I'll buy it the day it comes out. But you need numbers. You need stream numbers. You need people to show up to events. I know they did a great job at Columbus. I know it was really hype, and we had our guy Bravo over there. And we believe in Halo. We want Halo to succeed. But flying 4-man teams around and getting rooms for every MLG comes with an associated cost. Right. So if that team can't market to a solid number in a strong community, you have to start, every time you write the check, you're going, why are we writing this check? And it's always tough, and Jerry will back me up on this, is there's a lot of games that you really love, you would like to field and fly guys around and everything. But when you start looking at the checkbook, there's only so much money to go around. You have to allocate that where you're going to build your organization the most, where you're going to get the biggest bang for the buck for your sponsors. And on Halo, I think it was almost a victim of its own early success, because MLG picked it up and they spent so much money on it, and they made all these headlines with T-Squared and all these huge, salaries, and the top teams were getting flown or hotel rooms and all these different things. They didn't really have to independently create their own community. They were all attached, for the most part, to MLG. So now that MLG's backing off, a lot of community leaders are like, oh, shit, we just don't have the kind of natural built-in infrastructure that other games that have kind of organically grown have. And they're trying to scramble and get that. And I hope they do. I really like the game. But, if I was in Vegas, I don't know. I'm pulling for them, but Halo's got to do something. They've got to build that community and get some eyeballs on it quick.
Okay, we're speaking about numbers. A last one in the genre pool, because this actually came up a couple times in chat as well. Will Complexity ever look at doing something with MMOs, since those do bring in quite a few numbers, at least player-wise? We've got Guild Wars 2 on the horizon. We've got Diablo 3 right around the corner, and with the way Blizzard's been going in the eSports world, is this something you guys are considering? What are your thoughts in the MMO world?
I'm going to stop letting you ask questions, Jason.
Why? Because I help. Why? Because I am actually listening to what the community wants to hear.
One random person goes, "What about an MMO?" No, I'm joking. I'm joking. Please don't send me.
Smack that Pepsi bottle out of your hands.
We're always looking for fun games with vibrant communities and a solid competitive game. And if you look at League of Legends and what they've been able to build, and some people, especially early, were very much accusing them of trying to manufacture a game. Like, you can't force a successful game. Well, whatever you want to say about that, it's pretty dang successful. When I check out the statistics, the player hours, the viewer numbers, and MMOs kind of fall along that same type of thing, to where if you build a solid game and you support it a little bit, it can really blow up. I mean, look back to kind of the World of Warcraft days. We fielded some of America's best teams, and I didn't understand that game to save my life till like the very end. I finally kind of started to figure it out at the last BlizzCon we played at. But for a couple of years, we had WoW teams, and I would look at that, and I was just like, oh my gosh, somebody turn on a Counter-Strike stream or something. But we still supported the game because the community was so vibrant, and they were so supportive of our players. I haven't watched the chat much, I apologize, but I saw somebody was asking about Wreckful. He retired, and his videos are still by far the highest watched videos on our YouTube. We'll put out 20 videos with gamers and coverage and interviews, and then at the end of the month, I'll check the stats. Wreckful. 2,000 comments on this video. It's like they were some passionate, energized community, and that's what we really love, because we're going to build this and get people to stand behind us and be like, you know what, I really like Complexity, I really want to go get a hat or a t-shirt, I really want to support this guy and bring a big banner to MLG or whatever. If you want to get that kind of excitement and electricity behind your organization, you need communities that are like that. And whatever you want to say about WoW back in the day, there were some seriously crazy fans, and I was at BlizzCon and girls are like attacking my players, and I'm just like, what? This is crazy, This is like the guild gone crazy. But there's despite the fact I often don't understand what's going on, that's when we lean back and talk to people that know much more than us and be like, explain this to us, send us to the right sites, help educate us. Because the last time, I'll drop the old man thing, the older you get and you spend a lot of your time watching Dora the Explorer or throwing a football at the park, your life changes, and I don't have time to investigate each game as deeply as I would like. So we bring in younger advisors, bring them into our management team, and be like, you know what, and in a less than a 4-page report, or less than a half an hour phone call, I want to know everything there is to know about this game. And what you think, is it viable for something that we're trying to do? Would it fit in with our community? Is it something that we need to take a look at? And that's how we approach it. And we're definitely going to be looking at those games you mentioned. And if they spring up and start to build the kind of communities that I mentioned, we'll most likely be there.
That's awesome answers. I think that was actually much more interesting than you gave that credit for, Kurt. So that's what I say to you, all right?
It's always the same answer from organizations. If it gets big enough, we'll pick it up. He
awful. Just said he didn't be looking at it.
Stop, Kurt. I want to stop you there. It's not only about big, and if I stress that facet, please let me correct myself. It's not only about big. It's much more about the passion of the community. Now, I say that carefully because if you look at Halo, the community that it has, a lot of them are very passionate. If you look at some other games that never quite made it, a lot of them are very passionate. So you do need the numbers, but I've seen other games kind of come and go where tons and tons of people play them. I mean, Modern Warfare 3, we've never had a Modern Warfare 3 because the game was gigantic, made like $1 billion in 4 weeks, or I forgot what it was, and obviously everybody in the darn world is playing the game, but it never really coagulated. It never came together and formed what we saw, at least, to be this organized community that would follow the teams and pick their teams and pull for them and watch their players. And, there's tons of YouTube videos and big personalities in there, but it never quite struck us, at least, this is only my opinion, as like an esport, if that makes any sense. Gigantic community, but it just didn't strike us as an esport. My phone's ringing. And you can look at smaller games, that didn't have quite the numbers, but they were just so and maybe League of Legends is an example. It's just so passionate about the game. It's just kind of addictive, and it's turning into a true e-sport where people know who the players are. They know who the teams are. They know who the tournaments are. You're getting people that are like walking trivia, guides. Well, this guy did that stat at this event. And no. And you're starting to build a sport. These are the roots of a sport, a truly competitive activity that people want to be involved with and follow and watch. That's key. So it's not all about the numbers. I guess the perfect word, and some people hate this word, but just for lack of a better one, is it an e-sport? Yep. Some games have gigantic user bases, but no community. Some have a community that's but there's only like 8 of them. And it needs both. It needs numbers and it needs an organized, passionate community to be an e-sport, and that's what we're interested in.
So basically, what he's saying, Kurt, is, and I'm sure you've heard this saying before, it's not only the size that counts. Just saying.
That's right, Kurt. Remember that. Words to
the
live
Brazzers thing, and then this, it takes it over a whole new level. Jerry, go.
It does. You know what? I know we gotta move to Liquid Sheth at some point here, but I want to close out giving you a chance. And maybe this is something that hopefully we can bring you back on to talk about, Jason, because we really haven't talked much about the executives, and I think that's a good sign that we're having a great conversation and we can't hit everything we want. So, I do want to cover that a little bit because I do like the show. I like the experience you and Michael from, Dignitas bring on board, and, you really want to focus on the business. And I remember in the opening show, you talked a little bit, and I'm a huge fan of transparency, primarily because I have that luxury. Doing things differently, I get to be a little bit more. I don't know what the right word is, but I get that opportunity to throw stones a little bit easier. I'm not playing the same game and sort of shine that spotlight on things that I think is misleading or can have people make decisions that will damage their lives because they have unrealistic expectations about what they can do in esports based on some of the stories that get told out there. And I know for you. You seem to want to say, we need to cut through this and we need to be a little bit more transparent as well. And if we could touch on that before our hour here ends. Yeah,
I'll let your viewers get to Sheth because I promise he's much more interesting than me. It's a great choice for a guest. The executives has been something that's been on my mind for many years now. I guess because maybe I was a little older and like you said, I guess as far as esports, I've kind of been around forever. I've always and consistently received messages back when it was IRC or email and now Skype or at events asking questions. And, you try to be kind. You got 18 things to do before dinner time and you're getting all these messages. And after a while, you're just like, I can't answer all these as detailed as I'd like to. I try to give them a snippet of advice or my opinion on different things. But so for a long time, I thought we really just need to start a show that talks about the business side of gaming, because even if only 25 people watch it, those 25 people could go out and completely change esports and build it into a global phenomenon way bigger than we are today and really just like take it to a completely different level. And especially with like the VODs and everything that YouTube offers today, I'm like, if I can bring the right people on the show to kind of share some pointers and take it not only from historical, like how did you get here, what were your successes, what were your failures, but like an educational, like can you give us step by step what you look for if you're going to bring on a team or whatever. Then that'll always be on YouTube. And if I'm a young manager being like, wow, I want to be just like Jerry, or I want to be just like Kurt, or, I want to run an organization. How do I do it? Like, there's no guides. There's no book you can get. I mean, esports isn't old enough. So I'm like, if we could start putting some of it down, nobody on the show pretends that we know it all, quite far from it. And our guests don't claim to know it all. But together, if we kind of bring up some topics and attack them from different angles and at least get people thinking about the business side of things. And then when they might go, you know what? I thought I was going to be some Grandmaster World Champion of StarCraft 2, but apparently it's not going to happen. But I still really love esports. Oh, I'm in business school. How can I contribute? How can I help out? I want this show to kind of be a resource where people can come and watch the VODs and learn something, And instead of learning the hard way, instead of making the mistakes that I've made and others have made, let's all take this educational journey together so there's some kind of resource for people to lean back on and propel the industry forward. Whether the executives will eventually do that, I don't know. It's our attempt at making a difference on the business side of things. Hopefully somebody will learn something, and nothing would make me happier in 5 or 6 years than some very successful young manager or league operator sends me a message. You know what? I watch every episode of The Executives, and it saved me so many heartaches, and it really propelled my career forward. I mean, that's the kind of thing we're looking for.
Yeah, I think you just hit on something really important because, there are a lot of young people that are coming up who are passionate and want to do the same things that some of the organizations you mentioned have done. And none of us, I think this is very safe to say, have not made many mistakes along the way. You say you missed the StarCraft boat and had to play catch up. I never looked at World of Warcraft as anything really viable, but it was a huge community with huge stream numbers. But it was something I never really. Sometimes I think our own biases and maybe being
right.
Maybe being older helps us, right? We don't have the time, like you said, to look at all those games, and we get to be much more like actual real chief executives and listen to the advice of our trusted team to sort of lead us in the right decision. And we ask them the tough questions, and then we make the choice and we go. And I think that's a healthy environment. And that's a good sign of growth for esports, that we are not just entrepreneurs kind of swinging out there. We're able to kind of leverage that experience and obviously try to get the next generation of managers, players, other people excited about it, because it's moving quickly. And the joke I use, if we're going to go to the old man route, is as long as I have a plaque in the Esports Hall of Fame for my contribution, I'll probably be happy. That's good enough for me. And then the rest, we sort of, we watch that unfold, and it is what it is. But I
want to see a life-size cutout of Sir Scoots. That'd be kind of cute. Just a life-size cutout.
I'd say so.
Come on.
When he retires, if we retire, we should need to get an old troll show called The Balcony. We'll off the two guys in the Muppets up top, and we'll just sit there and
right.
try to talk from the back seat.
So I've got exactly. Jerry. If it's all right with you, I'm gonna take the last question because
sounds fantastic. Take the last question, then we'll bring on Mr. Sheth.
Fantastic. All right, so Jason, unfortunately we have to go. You wouldn't believe the questions I've wrote down. I have some of the most random, obscure shit that you would be like, Kurt, how did you pull that out of your pocket? But we got to have you back on soon, buddy, because I have tons more. So, but I do have a quick question. We were talking about your team and people that you have hired to advise you on certain things. And to me, that's one of the things, hands down, that I respect the most, one of the most about Complexity and VVV for that matter. And you guys have a lot more in common than I think you both tend to see sometimes. But
it's us old timers, that's why.
Yeah. You have some of the most dedicated and sticking around staff ever. I mean, Fro. How long did that guy stay around? And now Amy's and Haddock and all those guys have been around for ages. How in the hell do you do it? Because I can't do it. To be completely honest with you, for the most part, I can't do it. And a lot of people struggle with it at first, at keeping people dedicated.
It'll probably be a topic. You just gave me a show idea, Kurt. I gotta bring you onto the executives idea board, right? Maybe it'll be something we talk about in the executive sometime. Is different aspects of management. Obviously, as Jerry knows, it could be 75 episodes and not cover everything about management of like a team. But if I had to give you the quick answer so we don't keep Sheth waiting, it's two things. It's taking your dream and your passion for the brand and its core values and instilling it in other people. Mm. And when you find people that adopt your dream as their own, you can go very, very far in life.
Good words.
Anytime you're able to find people, if you can instill your dream, and then number two is push them hard, but always treat them right. That's the thing about some of our people who've been around so long, it almost becomes like a family, and anytime you're going to hire, never hire like your brother-in-law or your brother, because they're family, and that can be problematic. So be sure to push them very hard. Sometimes the longer they've been around, the harder you got to push them because they get too comfortable. But always treat them right. And if you screw up, don't be too big of a person. Always be able to say, "I'm sorry, I screwed up, completely screwed up. Will you forgive me?" And if you do those two things, instill the dream and treat them right, then if you're fortunate, you'll have people like we have been around a long time, and we really appreciate them.
Yep, yeah. Perfect. Well, Jason, I think that's a good time to sign out. I did lie about the last question, though. I got one last one. I think
I don't want to do it, you, Kurt. It's always one more.
Always.
I think it's going to be a quick one. I hope it's going to be a quick one. But the Random Acts of Kindness was a program that you guys did for a long time, and you brought it back a few times. You guys did some amazing stuff. For people that aren't aware of it, just go to their site, look it up. Really great stuff. It's stuff that I would picture people like VVV doing. Can we see it back anytime soon?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually had a bunch of plans for last fall that were all centered around streaming marathons for charity. A friend of mine actually started a charity that was our last charity drive, Random Acts of Kindness, called Project Mañana. It's down in the Dominican Republic. They set up a school, and you can sponsor kids or buy lunches and all this, and it's a phenomenal program. I'm going to try to get down to the DR, is what they call it, this summer, and volunteer at the school for a while. And then there was like this explosion actually of different charity events, which is awesome. I mean, TLO and others had Doctors Without Borders, and it just seemed frankly oversaturated, where I had these ideas and I was ready to pull the trigger, but then all these other great projects came along, and I'm like, one, it's too saturated and you just burn people out on this sort of thing. And two, I don't want it to look disingenuous. I didn't want it to look like, oh, well, Team Liquid guys are running charity marathon, so we better run one. I'm always very concerned about that when we do charity efforts, that you always have the cynical people and the forum trolls are like, you guys just want publicity or whatever. When honestly, there's tons of ways to get publicity. We seriously do this stuff from the bottom of our heart because we've been able to build a brand that's pretty well known in esports. And if we can use that to help some people or to get the word out and raise some money for some kids, isn't that the right thing to do? So we just kind of shelved it. It's still something that's very near and dear to me. It's just I feel that esports has been doing a really good job for the first time and maybe ever of people really getting invested in raising funds for good organizations. So we've just kind of shelved it for a little bit, but it'll definitely be back. It's not going away.
Cool. All right, Jason, I sure do appreciate the time, buddy. Any last thing from the co-hosts there?
No, I want to say it's a pleasure, Jason, to have you on. Look forward to you continuing to do great things with the executives. And I'm sure we'll be in touch. I'll send you an email. We'll talk a little bit more. And I want to thank you so much for coming onto the show, for inspiring so many, and good luck to you and Complexity and your teams and players. Give Katz a hug for me. He thinks I hate him, but, tell Jason Bass to not take my Twitter too seriously. I troll everybody, and it's a pleasure. It really is, all right? Have a good night, Jason, okay?
You bet. Thank you very much for having me on, and I wouldn't be an executive if I didn't say thanks to our sponsors, right?
Yeah,
thanks to Sound Blaster, UPad, PNY, Origin, G8, Nation Voice. Without these companies believing in the dream and what we do, we simply wouldn't be around. So thanks to them. Thank you guys very much for having me on the show. I appreciate it, and it was a pleasure. Thanks.
Jason,
take care,
you are
Jason.
a man. Before you go, one last thing. Sheth is over here. He is saying, please, God, talk to me at some point. That's not his exact words, but he wants to chat with you, so you need to get in touch with that man, too. But thank you so much, Jason. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, God, Jason, don't word it like that. There's already
Vegas, man.
Don't word it like that, Jason. There's already 10 Reddit threads now, col.sheth. We already watched out. There's already 10 Reddit threads. Oh, God, Jason, you've started it now.
I'm
it's
sorry.
over.
I'm a rumor starter. No, but Jason, honestly, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. We got to get you back on sometime, and thank you for everything you've done. It's awesome. All right,
thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Take care. All right. Wow. One guest down. That was actually really awesome. We're gonna get Sheth in here in just a minute. We are going to take a quick commercial break. We'll come back. We're going to announce the winner of the first giveaway. So if you would like to, you can still win a beta key for Ghost Recon as well. Just tweet at Losers Bracket with a link to the show. We'll be coming back. We'll be giving away a Dota 2 beta key. Right after this, winner's already been selected for that. So keep tweeting. We'll be back with Sheth in just 1 second. And we are back. Our second guest of the night, Sheth, Shawn Simon, that's a lot of S's, is here. If we're keeping with the number one theme of the night, he, in my opinion, was the best of the analysts this past week. I mean, I don't mean to throw out a names, QXCX Lab. You did good jobs as well. Don't get me wrong. But
hey, no. You already said I'm the best.
Oh, wow.
He's got a point. Compliments in esports are hard to come by, and he's a smart man. I'm going to take him when I can get him.
Like that.
That's
Look
the
at
plan.
that. But Sheth, please introduce yourself. Thank you so much for coming tonight. You just got home, so thank you for taking some time out of your busy schedule, just traveling home, to come on the Losers Bracket. How are you doing tonight, man? It's a pleasure to have you.
No problem. I'm doing really good. Like you said, I just got back home from New York City. It was a good time. And for those of you who don't know me, I am Shawn Sheth Simon, the player for Team Liquid.
Awesome. You have a big reputation as one of the biggest, I think you could say, teddy bears in the world of StarCraft. You always got that look at that. Look at the look on your. I'm sorry.
He's like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. I am actually a devil in disguise. I'm gonna take off my mask. I'm gonna be Idra any day now. You watch. No,
You'll see.
For the people that might not know who Sheth is, though, can we please get a little bit more information? Who is Shawn Simon? Tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I was born 23 years ago in a small town of Lehigh Acres, Florida. My mom said that day began with a warm sun. No, I'm just kidding. I play StarCraft 2 for a living. That's pretty much the only important thing. I try and commentate when I can. And, just play good games, have a lot of fun.
That's awesome, dude. What part of Florida are you in? Because I'm in Florida as well. I gotta be nosy.
Lehigh Acres? It's by Fort Myers. Southwest of Florida.
So you're like 2-3 hours away from me then. I gotcha. I'm right outside of Orlando. That's cool.
We could have done this live.
Oh, I know. Should have made you travel a little bit more. Come on up this way. Got bites.
Or you could have traveled this way.
I know.
Yeah,
professional thing to do.
I gotta admit, if there is a part of Florida I'd want to live, the whole Marco Island, Sanibel Island, Southwest side is not a bad place to be. Not at all. The Gulf Coast right there is really sharp, and I've got my toes wet in those areas many a times. It's a good place. Jason, if you don't mind, I want to get right started.
You know what?
Because I'm looking at the clock.
Before I do, I just realized I mentioned before we went to break that I was going to say who won the first beta key, so let me do that real quick. Just because I don't want them to be wondering about that. But at RYS_Twatter, Ryan Liss, you are the random winner for the first of the beta keys. So you'll be receiving a Dota 2 beta key. So if you could please get in touch with VVV Ninjatic, and if not, I'll make sure he gets in touch with you so you can get your prize. For everyone else, we still have a Ghost Recon beta key that we'll be giving away. To have your chance at winning, you just have to make sure you have tweeted at Losers Bracket somewhere in the tweet and a link to the show. Sorry to hijack that from you, Jerry, but please continue on.
No problem. And you should also follow at Losers Bracket if that's not obvious as well.
Oh, of course.
But yeah, of course. Well, let's get started. I mean, I don't think anybody who is paying attention to the stream does not know you as a player, but this weekend they got for the first time to know you as a caster. And I is always critical. Tell every caster what I don't like. And some take it poorly, and you embraced it right away, and there were like immediate changes. And I said, there's a professional, true and true. Nothing personal, gets it. And I said, I want him on the show. I want to get to know him, doing good things. Not to mention that I don't think you were the best caster. I think you were tied with Grubby. Both of you did an excellent job. You were both really entertaining. Both my favorites by far.
To be fair, I said analyst. He was there as an analyst. Grubby was there as a caster. To be fair.
To be fair.
Wow, he's digging a hole. He's like, I like Grubby way more than you, Sheth, but he was
right?
faster.
But let's go to this right here. This is really the first time for MLG to really bring this in, and this is a first for everybody. And so you're the first player who, for better or worse, was able to take this new role. I mean, you don't have anybody you can look at necessarily and say this is a role model. I mean, a lot of that analysis often gets done by the main casters, right? Taste of Sartostis, Wheat, Day 9 when he's casting, things like that. For you, how did you prepare for this? What did they tell you to do? So give us a journey from player to caster.
Okay, it's kind of tricky. To begin with, I thought, okay, what does a caster need? And I actually, a little ways before this, I played a lot of games as Terran at like high masters level. That was because when I was just casting a little bit myself, and even it's really fun to play Terran, but primarily I thought, well, I really have very little knowledge for TVT and TVP. I need to fix that. And so I played something like maybe 50, 60 games, like high-level Terran. So I think that helped a little bit for that, of just learning a little bit of extras in that way, although really I wasn't needed for those matchups. And then I looked up lots of information about all the players that were showing up, which was 8, so it's pretty easy. Memorized them all. We got Hart, MKP, then we had Gonzi, and then DRG, Violet, and then MC, Huck, and Parting. I can say them all pretty quickly. Run up little facts, like Violet was nicknamed the 7-Up Zerg, but now he drinks like strawberry slushies. And then there's Don Regu, who Juani, the translator, told me we should call him Mr. Korea because he's so handsome. So I have little tidbits of things I could say about all the players if I did end up needing that sort of thing to go back on. And then just, it turned out when I got there, like, it's a weird fluctuation between you don't want to say too much and you don't want to say too advanced. Like, so I could just talk like, oh, look at his creep tumors. Creep tumors placed here. It should be placed like 2 squares higher. This is really cool. I like this little creep tumor placement. Lets him spread it below 1 creep tumor earlier. And this is so interesting to me. And everyone else was like, shut up. That's not interesting to me. I don't care about the stupid creep tumor. But, you have to make it interesting. And, so we kind of talked about that, figured out more ways to like make it interesting yet still pretty heavy with analysis. And then just wanted to look for feedback, man. There's surprisingly not too much feedback, and I wanted more to figure out what I was doing right, what I was doing wrong. So, I kind of talked to the people at MLG, looked at your Twitter. I was hoping to find more advice on Twitter from anyone, but I liked yours, and I tried to use it as much as I could when I did it.
Well, I want to jump in on the next thing here before Kirk comes in, because once Kirk comes in, I don't know when we're going to be able to talk again. He's got all kinds of things he wants to talk about, and I think for a player, there's DreamHack going on. There's this event. You make the decision, or in some ways, decisions made that you're not going to be going to DreamHack. You're going to be doing this. Is it hard to stop playing and getting out of that competitive mindset and do this, or did it feel like a very natural transition for you?
For me, to be honest, a little before IPL, I was kind of feeling burned out. Just from really travel a lot. Like, I don't know, at least for me, I've kind of gained a little bit of weight, or I haven't really lost weight in a little bit, I guess. And so I wanted some time at home to really get a diet, because those of you who travel, I'm sure you guys have traveled a ton. It is so hard to keep a good diet when you're flying one day in a strange place 3 days, and then flying home the next day, and that's like 5 days, right? So I wanted some time to work on that quite a bit, as I really dislike being unhealthy. So I was kind of burned out from playing, and then this weekend, it was kind of nice where there was like no stress. Like, I went into it, and I actually told MLG, told JP, I can't do it. I'm sorry, I'm working on my diet. Lots of other little reasons too, but primarily need to stay home. And they were like, hey, if you come, we'll do anything you need for your diet. We'll make it happen for you. And I was like, are you sure? And they assured me that it would be okay. So when I got there, everything was really well done. They like catered meals for me specifically, and I was just really impressed.
somebody who recently has been on a diet weight loss program myself, I think it's really incredible when people understand that. I really appreciate being open about that, because I think one of the challenges that I always throw out there about esports is we're going to need our top players to be fit to set the proper role models. And it's not just about their own self-esteem, but, we've got to gain credibility in the bigger space. And what's facing us, I think, at least from parents who watch their kids play games, is, this obesity crisis. It's on the news. And tackling those things is always challenging. But I do agree with you. When I travel, diet is really, really challenging, and it's really awesome to hear MLG was that accommodating. And, I guess to some of your fans, they might say, oh, no, you're feeling burned out. Let's talk about the future post this event. I mean, now you've got this experience. You've had it. I think with what Jason said, and I'm sure I'm not alone, you did a good job. You were informative. I learned things. That's important. And I think people respect your opinion about the mindset of the players. Now that you've had that bug, is it something you want to keep doing? You're unsure yet? Or no, playing is still where all my passion is?
It'll probably be up in the air quite a bit. Obviously, playing is still where my passion is, and if given the opportunity to either play in this event or commentate or be an analyst for an event, I would always choose to play, at least pretty much all of the time. If I'm in this weird burned out situation, maybe I would commentate, but for me, being burned out just means I'm a little bit tired of it, and I just kind of want to relax at home and I'll still play like 5 hours a day of the game, but like that to me is relaxing, not like going to events every week, as that is really stressful. But always playing will probably be first for me. I'm surprisingly addicted to competition.
Well, I'd hope so, because you're awfully doing a lot of it. So, all right, Kurt, I'm going to hand it over to you. Otherwise, I might not give you a chance to speak.
Yeah. Oh, well, that would never happen. I don't know what you're talking about. No, so I've got a few questions about the general MLG event.
Hey, shoot.
And then I've also got a few questions in general. But I want to start with the MLG thing, because this is what we're covering now. I mean, you were there. This is the first time that you had been to, or this is the first time you had been to a casting event, right? A live event.
Correct.
How, coming in there as the player mindset, how has your mindset changed looking at casters now and sort of dealing with that? Did everything go according to his plan with MLG, or were there like times when you're like, damn it, I know how casters feel now, buddy? Like what how did it all go?
Okay. Let me first give you the player viewpoint, at least from my point of view. We, like, at an MLG event like this, you play maybe, realistically, I'll say maybe each player played 3 hours up until that final day. So you had 3 hours of play, and it's a lot more stress, maybe even more. We'll say like maybe 4 hours of play in 2 days, where you're just sitting there and you're actually doing the work, the physical work of playing. But the rest, the other like 40 hours, you're sitting there nervous, contemplating, thinking, and it's a lot more of a mental work. It's not really, like, when you get into the game, you just play. The game is almost done by the time you've started it, because of all the mental preparation and the preparation you put into playing this game. And so that's basically how I feel as a player. Like, it's a lot of mental work, and then when you play, it's very tough, but, the lead-up is almost harder than the actual playing. Playing kind of comes naturally. You just do it, because you've done it so many times.
So you've heard it here first, folks. Sheth loves the open bracket more than the arena. Go into Reddit. Be right back. No, I'm joking.
So then, as a commentator, it's like nothing. There's no mental like waiting. You're just doing it all the time. You're just either an analyst. You were either in the analysis desk. I casted one game. I believe DRG vs Violet. Or you're on like another stream just talking with community members or playing with community members, so you're always just doing something. And I felt like being a caster, towards the end of the day, you're definitely going to be way grouchier and way like just angrier at the world, because you've been there for like 10 hours just like, hello everybody, in the right-hand corner we got the right-hand Zerg and blah, 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 and blah, 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 blah. And you just do that for 10 hours, you're tired as anything and just want to go home. And so like I have more respect for like the amount of stamina that I feel casters have to have, And like in the same vein, I feel like players are the sprinters, casters are the stamina people.
That's a good analogy.
Gotcha. It is, and I think probably people like DJ Wheat would certainly agree. I think he's actually used a very similar analogy before. So. Yeah, great stuff. Now, I mean, and Jerry, I think you have a few more MLG questions, so I want to pass back to you before I ask any general questions. Do you have any more MLG questions?
Yeah, I have. I want to go back a little bit to, as a player, you've been to obviously a lot of events, you've seen them all, and you get, I think, a lot of good perspective about, how players are treated, how they're respected. And when you go to general questions, Kurt, I'm going to have one too, because I know a lot of fans are going to want to ask Sheth who they wish to be like, some of those types of questions. But I was going to ask, if you have, let's say right now IPL's listening, DreamHack's listening, ESL's listening, MLG's listening, what are some of the most important things that they do well that they should keep doing that really are important to players, right? That you want to say things like, they do these things and it really makes a difference in our ability to be at our top game, right? Because obviously the environment is so critical. As you mentioned, it's mostly psychological, just sitting there preparing. What are some of the things that events do or have done that are really great for players to make sure that the fans and the audience are getting players at let's say, their peak performance?
That's kind of a tricky question. I mean, each event has things to do well, and interestingly enough, I would say a good event, maybe even the best event ever, the only good thing they have is they did nothing wrong. Like, a lot of events become worse and become a pain just because of things they do wrong, and it's very hard to find just that perfect tournament that from the beginning there were no, like Blizzard didn't blacklist the event, and then, matches weren't delayed by 5 hours, computers weren't, fritzing out by the end of the day, and, just issues everywhere. So just finding, I guess I'll say I think IPL has the happiest staff members who assist you with everything. That would be something from them that I really enjoyed. It's just all the people, the admins, the refs, everyone was always very happy. They were very willing to accommodate the players, and I find that very important. MLG, I think the best thing that they do, they probably have just the best players there, and they get the best viewership. I mean, that's not something really a player it is something a player looks for. As long as they keep getting that viewership, man, they can do whatever they want. That's what promotes us as players, and it's amazing. And then if you have something like DreamHack, I've only been to one, but everything there went smoothly. There was no real mistakes. There are some issues with admins, but that's going to happen anywhere, and that's partially my fault as well, of course, or the player's fault. So I can't really think of something that DreamHack does great, other than I got to meet Robert Olin, who is the greatest. So I guess I'll just say they have Robert Olin and Too Good always there to hang out with.
I suppose that's definitely a good thing. And about DreamHack, have you got a chance to check out, any of the DreamHack VODs for this past weekend? I know you were busy, so.
I haven't. I want to watch Red Genius and Monster Thorzane, but I haven't gotten to yet.
Some pretty crazy games, and even better, some pretty crazy crowd reactions. Really, really amazing stuff. Really amazing stuff. We haven't had a chance to talk about it much this show, but people that haven't watched it, go check it out. On to general questions. I have watched you stream and ladder, and to me, it's just a lot of people call you Manor Bear. You're 100% Manor all the way, and you laugh, but I don't know whether you like it or not. But you're stuck with it, buddy. I hate to tell you, because I have seen people BM you on ladder, flat out will just call you every name in the book, rage, and you will kill them with kindness so much that by the end of the game, they apologize to you for that BM. I have seen that.
It has happened before.
And that is just fantastic. So how can you do it, man? Because I can't. I don't have the willpower. I'm telling you, I would rage, and I love players that aren't BM, and I tell all my players that they need to do certain things, but I couldn't do it. I would just rage my head off. So how can you do it, man?
Well, it's definitely not easy. I mean, there are certain things that that get through anyone's armor. Like, we all have certain things that we're a little bit worried about. But, like, I've been playing this game, like, StarCraft 1 for 10 years now or something, and StarCraft 2 for, like, 2 years. Like, I've heard it all, man. I better be used to most of these BMs. Like, now I can just sit and be like, oh, that was unique. Well done. And, like, I won't really be offended by it. I'll just, like, applaud it, like, nicely done BM there. That was well done. It's something I'm kind of used to. Like, things I will get upset about are, like, people who break rules in tournaments or, like, do anything mean to my team. Like, I mean, those are things that I'll actually get upset about. But people being like, oh, you're stupid, dumb, play StarCraft, play video games all day long, and are fat, I'll be like, well, yeah, that's true. Well done. You stated a fact, and I'm calmly beating you as you type this out to me, you know? It doesn't bother me.
Kill him with kindness, man. Kill him with kindness. I mean, for people that don't know what I'm talking about, please check out his stream. Really. I mean, you don't see it very commonly. People apologize, but I was lucky enough to see it one day, and I just couldn't stop laughing. So, yeah. Jerry, on to you, buddy. I know you got another question, too.
Yeah, I want to actually dovetail right into what you're talking about, which is, you know, to be honest, Shawn, you do seem to have this positive mindset. You know, and people, they see this right away. I think this is what really so many players are out there. Their shtick, if it will be, their act is to BM, to be aggressive, to basically be the angry nerd. Things that I guess works for them, sort of gets the angry nerd beside them. But there's a whole other caliber of fan, aspiring player who doesn't come with that baggage. They have your sort of positive outlook. And I guess a lot of people who may say, you know what, I want to have that positive outlook. What are some of the things you think you do, or what do you think helps you maintain such a positive outlook compared to let's face it, a lot of gamers?
See, this is more like tricky things. I think it has a lot to do with personality. I mean, there was a time I would kind of rage and get upset, and then just like, I guess just changes in my life primarily. Like, I mean, I can get all like, well, this happened in my life, and at this point, because of that, I wasn't really worrying about online people. I was worried about this situation. And I mean, realistically, my life's been a lot of ups and downs outside of the game. I mean, inside the game too, where like, you know, you've been really sad you play video games, you've decided it's the best job ever, you want to quit a day after, and then like, you know, the next day you're on top of the world again. I mean, that happens rarely, but enough so that like you find out what's really important. Like it has to be a mindset. Like you have to realize, I've said like 20 times. So I think I need to figure out, need to fix.
I mean, I think if that's your only worry, Shawn, you're doing okay. But I think I want to focus on that. You're right. It is that those events that happen, and I think you're really on a great track, and I want to make sure you don't lose that point about really identifying what's important and what's not important. I think I want you to finish that train of thought.
Oh, well, I mean, how many people can say they're on Team Liquid? How many people get to travel whenever they want to events, and how many people get to play a game that they love? You want people to be happy. Like I need fans. That's what keeps me alive and able to do this. So it's kind of, as long as you know what's important and you try new things to continue your dream of doing this as a job or of doing this as work. I mean, either way, that's what's important to me as a person. And if you want to, I guess, be calm, you have to eventually maybe just tell yourself enough, like, this doesn't matter whenever someone BMs you, and then eventually it won't. I mean, I guess pretend until you make it probably works for this too. At least it did for me, I guess. I think that's how I went. That's how I first started. It was just like, oh, it doesn't bother me, and then eventually now it usually doesn't. Sometimes I'll get a little bit angry, but I still won't respond. I mean, I can just be quiet and just like let them think I'm a minor. Well, like in my head, I'm like, oh, I hate you, I'm gonna kill you. But I don't say
It's a good thing nobody ever gets to see what I think, right? That'd be horrible.
Oh, God.
But you already talked to me.
So, yeah, I know, right? When I rage. But Jason's going to start collecting some fan questions for Shawn. And while he's doing that, and I'm sure he's already got a long list, and there are a lot of Sheth fans there, I can see on Twitter and other things. So, Kurt, go ahead and take the next question, and we're going to give it over to Jason.
All right, yeah. Shawn, you mentioned Team Liquid, and you haven't had a tons of teams in your SC2 pass by any means, but you have been on a few. And I'm just kind of curious from a player standpoint, because we haven't had a chance to interview anyone that's been on Team Liquid before. And I'm just kind of interested from a player perspective, going from someone like Root to an FXO, and now Team Liquid. How does it feel? Does it feel different being on a team that is also a community site that you've probably hung out on for years and years and years? Like, is it different than being on another team? You know, I would suspect it would be. So I'm just kind of curious, like, how that feels. You know, how that is to you, having been on, you know, this community site for years, and now you're on the team, kind of thing.
Okay, well, with the Roots, it was basically, I've known Cats from Brood War for a while, known Drewby as well. So joining them was just joining up a bunch of friends. There's no money involved with Roots. I mean, although sometimes we like split prize money, and we would all just win tournaments in the beta for fun. But I mean, that was just a team with no money, or very small money. There was some. And then going from that sort of atmosphere where it's just relaxed, hanging out with your friends, to FXO, where it's very, very, I need results, and then you get money, and then you get money, then you need results, you know, to go into that. It was actually fine, because I did results, and it was okay. I put up enough results that I was pretty happy with it. But then towards the end, I guess I didn't do enough results, and we obviously had issues. So losing, or being removed, or mutual, whatever it ended up being, with FXO, at that point, I knew, like, I wanted that sort of friend atmosphere, and I wanted to get paid for it, right? I didn't want to not get paid. And having been on Team Liquid for so long at these events, like, I was, like, the biggest fanboy, not of, like, players, although when I did see Boxer, I was, like, his biggest fanboy. But after that, like, seeing people like Nazgul and Hotbit and Rich, like, those three names were like, oh my god, I finally get to meet you, this is amazing. Like, this was even while I was in FXO, like, just meeting the people who ran that site that I've been a part of for, like, 10's ridiculous, maybe, like, 6 years, you know, and you get to go and meet them in person, and ever from then, I've, you know, been pretty good friends with Ken, Chen, who's Hotbit, and Victor as well, and Rich, too, like, not to short anyone, I like Rich quite a bit. And just when you have people who you can really like, who are in the management position, and you get such good, like, I had such good reviews. Like, I talked to Dario a lot, TLO, we were friends, Jinro too, a few people beforehand, you know, before I joined TL. And then when I did actually join TL, like, I didn't expect anything to be different from those two atmospheres, from just the relax play with friends, or the relax, get results, get money, so forth. But it was really just, you could almost feel that you became a community figure. Like, just that, like, I don't know if that's a good way to put it. You felt more involved in the website, and you felt like you were playing for more than just your team. You felt like actually more of, I'm sure you can get what I'm going at. You feel more like...
that's the whole point I asked the question. I mean, it's one of those things where Huck is on EG, but a lot of people still consider him Team Liquid all the way. You know, and if by some chance Noni left Team Liquid, which I don't think would ever happen, but if it did, I think it would be in a very similar situation where every it would be, oh, that's Team Liquid Tyler. Yeah, you know, so it's very heavily community oriented, so it's got to be so much different than a regular team.
I have it. I figured it out.
There we go.
Root and FXO were teams. Team Liquid is something else. Team Liquid is a community, and being a part of that community as a player for the community is absolutely amazing.
That almost sounds like...
Amen to that, huh? Amen to that.
I was just going to say, yeah, Jerry, I was going to say, we can relate because of the community that we have with VVV. And that actually is a perfect segue into community questions. We actually have been taking... Oh, look at that. We've been taking a couple of questions from the community. So let's get some of their questions to you so we can hear your answers for them. And I actually really liked this one. This first question was from SC2 Snowman in the chat. He actually asked, what drives you? His exact words were, I know a lot of players talk about having a hard time staying motivated. Just curious, what keeps you passionate with being a professional player? So what drives you, Sheth?
It's an interesting question. A lot of things. It's a huge combination. of hating physical labor, like manual labor being out in the sun all day, disliking politics in general, where you have a boss and you have to, do something for him. And I guess, obviously, I have a boss, but in this case, it's like he's a friend. It's like, and I make my schedule. It's that love for a really nice job where I play video games, a love for travel, that I can get to go to events, see the world a little bit, and then most of all, way more than those four things, is my love for the whole strategy genre, and mostly the StarCraft games, StarCraft 1 and 2, where, I think as long as you find something that you love, you'll be passionate about it regardless. I'm sure there are people who love checkers or love chess and would love to just be a professional chess or checkers player. And for me, it's just instead of that, or even like football or any sport, you can be passionate about it. And I'm just passionate about StarCraft, where if I couldn't be a player, I'd be a commentator. If I couldn't be a commentator, I'd be, anything. I'd be trying to balance it or anything, man, anything.
I understand that for sure. With being in the StarCraft 2 scene, obviously, you have your wins, you have your losses. JGwin89 asked, what do you do to recover from your losses? And what do you do to change your mindset from a major tilt in ladder and tournaments? How do you approach a situation like that?
Gotcha. Well, it's been a long struggle against that sort of thing. When I first played Brood War, I would quit the game for months. Then I'd quit the game for a month, and then I'd quit for months again, and then I'd quit for a month. And with StarCraft 2, I think I only quit once for a few months in beta. And then really just maybe quit for a weekend, maybe take a little bit of time off, take a few days to play another game, relax, let yourself get out of that tilt mode. But ultimately just kind of force yourself to stay away, take your mind off of it. If you're someone like me, I'll just think about StarCraft all day, every day, continuously. And sometimes you just need to stop that, or you're just hurting yourself. You need to, have your brain relax. So, just go do something else. You have to.
Right. So aside from just taking some time off, I guess this really segues very well into one of our own community members asking a question. VV Robsy God actually asked, how do you approach practice to improve? Aside from just taking time off, what's your way of approaching practice?
Okay, that's a good question. It's tricky as a player because you need just pure practice. There's a way where you can stream and get practice. It's obviously not the best practice for you as a player, but it's important for other things. Being a player isn't always just about playing at the top of your skill. It's about your brand. I'm sure you guys all understand that very well. And doing something like streaming while practicing merges both worlds very nicely. Mm-hmm. So that's something you can always do just for practice any time of the day. But primarily, if you're striving purely to be the best player you can at all times, you always want to play someone better than you. And if possible, you always want to talk with that person on Skype at random points just to get their feel on the matter. Take the time to talk about it. Maybe say, it's really hard to do online. If you're both lived in a house, there would be times where you would just sit down and have lunch, have supper, and you just talk about the game for 30 minutes. So find a way, maybe watch replays, watch a VOD with that person, someone you think is better and understands the matchup very well, and just talk about the game. I think that's an underlooked at sort of thing that I try and do a lot with someone like Dario or Rhett.
That's a really good piece of advice. Really good. Anybody who is looking to improve should really take that to heart. Well said, Sheth. One of the last community questions, we'll do two more. We actually had someone that asked, and this kind of almost works from this, where you were talking about people who are better than you, people that you would be talking with. Kindwind in the chat actually said, who has been your mentor in your StarCraft 2 career? Has there been anybody that you kind of looked up to that, was it some of the people that you just mentioned, or is there anyone else that you would consider a mentor?
I don't really think there was anyone who's a mentor. Mm-hmm. It was always just watch replays, and you have to figure out things for yourself. Right. There was no one I just directly copied. If anything, just generically Koreans would be the mentor.
I gotcha.
There's no real great answer to this other than that.
Oh, it's still good to know the answer though. And as a final community question, we had Mega Man 8-Bit in the chat who actually just asked, and this is actually something really cool to end the community questions with. Since you had mentioned Team Liquid, kind of feeling like the community there, even though you have players that are on other teams, when you go to tournaments, do you enjoy hanging out with your with other StarCraft players that are on rival teams? Are you guys friends? People like Idra, Huck, these players, do you enjoy getting together with them, talking to tournaments? Anyone in particular, by chance, that you really enjoy being with when you're at tournaments as well? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have anyone I would consider like a real enemy that I try and avoid.
I can't imagine. You, the Manor Bear, come on. Really?
So just pretty much, like, I always like hanging out with Destiny. I love playing Mafia with any of the Team Liquid guys. Like, we always play Mafia at the end of, like, each big tournament day. If I'm ever out, I can go play with them. I love Mafia. Even just play it, like, on the forums every once in a while is fun. And then there's... What am I thinking of? I mean, there are tons. Like, I love hanging out with Thorazane. All the TL guys are fun to hang out with. Hydra, Machine. Machine's awesome. Nick's awesome. Axlav. Ben, the Muslim. I mean, I really like a lot of the EG guys, despite, I guess, this rivalry. Jeff's cool, too. And, I mean, I can go on. Vare. I don't know if you guys know him. Check 6 Vare is a really good friend of mine, too. So just trying to hang out with them at these events.
That's awesome.
Whoa, learn something new. All right.
The community's all saying thank you, so I'm sorry, Kurt. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you for once. Ha ha ha, this feels powerful, I like it. But no, the community's all saying thank you for answering their questions. And Kurt, let's throw it over to you. Ask your final question. We'll throw it back to Jerry to wrap things up.
No, I was just going to make a witty comment for no apparent reason.
No, please.
So I don't
make your witty comment and then ask your final questions, and we'll toss it back to Jerry. As someone's furiously typing on their keyboard.
Yeah. All right, but yeah, I'm going to pass it to Jerry. Jerry, You're up, buddy.
All right. Well, thanks. I guess the final question tonight, and I think one that, I think in a lot of ways might be on the mind of maybe parents, might be on the mind of people making career choices. You're obviously in the moment. You're obviously invested in doing what you love, and times are great. Someone may ask the tough questions. Have you gone to college? Do you plan on going to college? Do you want to work in esports after this? You've obviously had to make some very measured and risky decisions compared to maybe your peers. And I just want to get, from your perspective, that thought, because a lot of people have the dream. A lot of people will not achieve the level of success you've achieved, and giving them sort of your thought process and how you've made these decisions and where you see your own future being.
Okay. I, growing up, probably like most of you, considered myself special, gifted, anything like that. I was usually at the top of my class of 25 people there, whatever. And then basically I managed to get 2 years of college in high school. So I left high school with an AA degree already. But by this time, StarCraft 2 just came out maybe a year after that. And I started off going to be an engineer. I went there for a year in college to do that. And then I found out we kind of had like an economy.
Real quick, which school did you go to?
Florida Gulf Coast University. It's not a huge school, but it is a state college. It's not a community college. And anyway, so we had like this big kind of downturn with the building and real estate market in Florida. So at this point, I kind of figured, well, if I want to stay in Florida, and I was pretty sure I did at the time, like I really had reasons to stay, I figured I really don't want to be an engineer, so I went, tried to be a teacher. So I'm about a year of credits away from being a full teacher. I was right at the point where if I went for another semester, I'd actually be interning in schools, teaching there for around half of the time, like as basically an intern there. So at that point, I kind of had to make the decision to either go pro or not at all, because you really couldn't continue like my lifestyle of being a half semi-pro gamer and, going to college for this. And at the time, FXO gave me an offer of, hey, we'll give you enough salary that you can for sure live on your own. And with streaming, you should be fine. And I said, well, let's give it a try. Let's see how it works. Because for me, it's I was also kind of getting tired of teaching. There's a lot of politics once you're actually in the schools and everything. And I'm really not I don't know. I use the term politics. It's more of I dislike certain people, and if they're the bosses, it's no fun. At least in college and that sort of situation. So I decided to go and be a StarCraft 2 pro, and it worked out.
And what about beyond this? What do you see in the future? Working in esports, or not sure yet? Or
right now, as far as I know, I'd always love to be involved in esports. For instance, if StarCraft 2 died right today, I'd probably move to LoL because I love competition so much and it seems big. If LoL died, if every game just quit for me to... If I lost feeling in my hands or something like that, I would love to be a commentator first, or an analyst, something like that. And then if that didn't work out, I'd love to work at... I think Blizzard is my go-to. If TL gets big enough, I would love to work for Team Liquid. Things like that. As long as I live, I'd love to be in esports, I think. I'd love to promote this growing thing because I think it's amazing. And I think it's underdeveloped, and my goal is to develop it.
Awesome, Shawn. Well, Jason, I know you asked me to wrap it up, but I think you do a much better job than I, sir. So I'm going to turn it over to you to wrap us up here.
Well, thank you very much. I said it earlier in the show, Shawn, but I really do appreciate you being able to come on the show tonight. Just, right after you turned around and traveled home from New York to Florida. That's a long trip. So thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy schedule to share some time with some of your fans and share your experiences with us. It's really been a pleasure to chat with you here on the show. Before we do let you head out and get some well-deserved rest for the evening, do you have any shout-outs? Anybody that you'd like to say anything to while you're here on the show? Any sort of shout-outs? The floor is yours, my man.
Just thanks a lot to MLG for having me on their stream last weekend, being able to do the arena. And, of course, a huge shout-out to Team Liquid. Amazing website. I'm sure all of you guys listening have heard of it. Check it out some more. Visit some of the weird random places there, like Mafia forums. And then our sponsors, Razer, Little App Factory, and Twitch.tv are all quite amazing, as well as streaming on Twitch TV, and I'm sure you guys love it as much as me. And then thanks again, Jerry, for providing me some tips, the arena. I really did appreciate that. And, of course, all of you guys for having me on the show. It's been nice. You guys have asked a lot of questions. I thought I'd get to ask questions back, but that's okay. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it.
Oh, my God. I'd love to hear it. Are you kidding me?
Please, before you go.
That's great.
Yeah. Let's turn the floor around. You have the microphone. Ask us whatever questions you have. Please.
Oh, my.
You're now the host of the Losers Bracket.
Well, I had a lot of questions.
I'm hoping for Counter-Strike. No, I'm joking.
I had a lot of questions as we went by, and I just forgot them all. But I'll try and come up with them here. Well, let me see. Let me think.
I like how you
where should I go?
Around. This is good.
Go wherever you like. The floor is yours. Nothing's off limits.
Wherever I like.
Oh, dude, I got some great questions. I'll PM them to you, Sheth. Here, hold on.
Okay.
No, don't be Counter-Strike. That's bad. That's no. Go ahead, Sheth.
In Counter-Strike, what did you think of the map? No, I'm just kidding. Okay. Let's see. So, Jason, how do you like hosting a show like this? Being the JP McDaniels of the group.
God, that's a stiff comparison right there, Sheth. This has been a dream to do something like the Losers Bracket, to actually have the world of esports, tune in and hear our guests. We basically helped grow this awesome community here, and I can only hope that this continues to get bigger as we go on. I mean, this is our 111th episode. We've been doing this for well over 2 years at this point. It's a cool feeling, and I could only hope that we can continue to have an impact directly on people's lives. That's the one thing I really enjoy is really helping people in the world of esports. I feel like we've done a good job of that, and I can only hope that it continues to grow in that regard. So do I enjoy this? It's wonderful. Yeah, it's the highlight of my week, and I can only hope that someday I'm able to do something like this for a living. It's really cool.
Okay, Jerry, what do you think of people who always give very PC answers to questions?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. Wow, I like that. That's what makes you a great analyst.
Oh, BM. Your new name is BM Bear. Like that. BM Bear.
Oh, God, don't get him started. Whatever you do, please don't get him started. I mean, I think, something about what I do, right? I mean,
Whoa.
I'm probably known for being relentless. I mean, if I had a dime for every time somebody calls me an idiot or I get them upset, I get them pissed off or something like that. But, behind the scenes, I think behind the scenes are the key players, and not so much Team Liquid. I mean, I still do honestly need to reach out to Hotbit, and, he was really upset when I leaked the MLG news. But, it was important that we shine a spotlight on something that Team Liquid did that I didn't think was a really good idea. And whether he liked it or not, I can get the ire of the StarCraft community, as I did the ire of the Counter-Strike community and the fighting games community and whatever community I decide to upset, more so because I think you have to stir the pot to get to the truth. And, I think a lot of people misunderstand what VVV gaming is. We're not complexity. We're not.
So what is VVV gaming?
Say again?
So what is VVV gaming?
I mean, we really are the place where, we focus on a community and not a community focused on one game like Team Liquid. But I mean, when we crafted the mission statement of our organization, I mean, we really wanted to the dime really get it right. And, I don't want to read it to you, but I'm going to just because I don't think there's a better way to say what we're about. But basically in everything we do, Sheth, we believe that all gamers with a passion for competition need an engaging outlet to share and express their passions. Competitive gamers thrive in a diverse environment that's social, empowering, supportive, and informative. And all games and all gamers, regardless of skill, have a place in competitive gaming. Right? All gamers, regardless of skill, have a place in competitive gaming. We need fans, we need casters, we need writers, we need people of all sorts of level. I'm kind of veering off reading to you because I really do hate to do that.
Well, you bring up a really good point. You bring up a point that I think is very, very little been talked about, the social aspect of this. You feel like gamers need a good social network and a social place to do this. Do you feel like you've accomplished that? And if not, like, how are you continuing to get towards a social network where you feel players can have that sort of situation?
I think to tell a little story, our acceptance rate in the VV gaming is 14%. We accept 14% of the applicants we get. And of that 14%, the story I hear more often than ever is, and I've conducted well over 700 interviews in 5 years of people coming into VV gaming. And what I will ask those people every time is the same question I'll open up the interview with is, if you don't mind, tell me why VV Gaming? What's the one thing you like more than anything? And they'll say the community. That'll be the first words out of their mouth. And I think the first day I don't hear that answer for someone is the day that I know we've gone off course or we're doing something wrong. And as long as those people who come to the interviews, who I ask what they love, who their favorite people in VV are, what they enjoy so much, then I know we're on the right track. And I think that for a lot of people, it's hard because the eSports model is being number one. Well, someone has to be number 4 and 5. Someone has to invest in players who are up and coming. No matter what people said about Ruff, no matter how many times people think VV doesn't know who the good players are, we do know the players that are up and coming. We do a good job, like in Glon, who just broke up into the top 50, top 42. Here's an unknown player, a 16-year-old kid from Michigan, but we look hard at that level of talent that often goes unnoticed. And you can not like me. Maybe you can think we're all stupid and we don't know who the top players are. But in the end, someone needs to fill what I believe is to be that critical role. And you mentioned politics, Shawn. I think it's really true. We get to be divorced of the politics of an EG or a Team Liquid or a Complexity. I can throw stones at eSports because none of them pay my bills. None of them have anything to do with what we're doing. And the worst that we do is get a few players that say, oh, Lord Jarrett's an idiot, or they don't know how to pick up players because they don't really understand our model. And just like you have to ignore that kind of BM in game, we kind of ignore that kind of BM on forums because we know the direction we are at and how we serve the esports community.
So an interesting add up to this, would you recruit a player like Hydra or Destiny who all very, to me at least, very good mannered in person. Are very okay.
No, okay. If Destiny came tomorrow or Hydra came tomorrow, came tomorrow, I would say no. And not that I don't like Greg, although Destiny, I don't know. To me, that's in everything in competitive sports in the world, there's always a Destiny. There's always a player that isn't necessarily the top skilled, but has the ability to entertain in a very negative fashion, and Destiny does that. And so, I don't think it's good. Maybe if we were larger, but obviously as a fan base, as you mentioned, but they're not good for our image, not for our brand. No,
Okay.
I wouldn't say so.
Good to know. And what do you think about that, Kurt? I'm sorry I've neglected you for so very long.
Telling you, man. Telling you. BM Bear. That's what I say. I can agree to an extent. The thing about VVV is VVV is amazing in the sense that it can afford to do that. Some others like to think that they can't. They need the people that bring the numbers, and that's what it's about. It's all kind of a numbers game to a bunch of people, including myself. And if we're trying to support a sponsor, we need those numbers. So we have to try to balance it out. I tell people this all the time, and we at Check Six are known for, rather unfortunately, picking up what some people think as to be lower level players, or people that aren't players at all. Max was Black, Julia, stuff like that. But then we also pick up players like Sleep, and we bring them over from Korea. We pick up amazing players like Vayer and Mystic that are fairly unknown. You have to be able to balance it out. You have the players that we believe can go somewhere, but also have a huge following, right? And then we have the players that we believe are already there or almost there, and just need to be sort of tipped over the iceberg a little bit, like Vayer. Vayer made recently won the first play-in qualifier for the Blizzard national finals, so national event. So, it's all really, really good stuff. It's just a matter of trying to balance it out, and it's the same thing for Destiny. You see Destiny on a team, and then you also see Naniwa on that same team.
I have a hard-hitting question for you now. Okay, is that okay?
Oh God! Oh no, it's not. No, I'm joking. Yes, it's okay.
Okay. How do you feel about teams? You mentioned you have Julia. She is a player who I don't know much about. She may be very good or very bad, but regardless, imagine she is actually the prettiest girl in the world, but the worst girl ever at StarCraft, but she tries her heart out. Do you feel how do you feel about a team that would send her to events and not send players who try very hard, but obviously aren't a very pretty girl who is very bad?
I would say it would depend on the situation.
Okay.
I would say completely depends on the situation. For our situation, it's not something that we would do. For instance, we send Julia to a bunch of events,
And neither would we do, just for the record.
Yeah, and we send Julia to a bunch of events. We send her to MLG, she'll be going to MLG Anaheim, but
Great.
We also are sending Vayer, Mystic, Suppy, This Is Jimmy, Sleep. We're
The
sending
best of both worlds, send everyone.
Exactly. Maximus Black will be there. So we try to balance it out. Is really the biggest thing. We're not going to play a pure numbers game. A lot of people think we are. We're big. But we also have Pain User, who is a player that I think is an amazing player, and I don't think a lot of people used to think he is, but he just hasn't played a lot lately because his obligations to IPL, and people give us hell for that too, and that's perfectly fine. As long it's all like VVV. People don't understand completely how what we're trying to do, So it's as long as you balance it out, I think it's perfectly fine.
Jason, how do you feel about that? Would you agree? And be honest.
Oh gosh, caught me off guard as I was talking in the chat about feedback and things like that from people, and just to tell you, Sheth, you've actually converted some of your fans into Losers Bracket listeners, so thank you so much for that, because they're in the chat, and I don't mean to get off subject from your question, but people in the chat saying thank you so much for being so open and honest during your interview.
Okay, pause it real quick. Jerry, how do you feel about people who delay answering questions with more PC content?
You know what? I'm glad you bring this up. We need Jason Lake in here right now, because I'm quite positive when Jason Lake said, "Drive your people hard," Jason Paradise said, "You know what? Fuck you. Jerry does not need to hear that shit, because that's all he does. That motherfucker doesn't pay me shit to do what I do. I do it, and no matter what I do, it's never good enough for him." So, yeah, I'm sure you set poor Jason up for sitting in that limelight again. And I'm going to say, Jason, will you answer his goddamn question, please?
It's good. Done. God damn it.
Because if we kind of flounder on this too long, Kurt's going to bring Counter-Strike 1.6 in here somewhere. So
I'll start bringing up
to
Guitar
answer
Hero.
quickly
What's going to happen
so that
then?
Shawn can continue. So please.
I'm going to bring out my plastic guitar and start playing Guitar Hero. We don't want that, do we? That would be bad. All right?
I've had a lot of fun asking you guys questions. I think that'll do for me.
Sheth.
Awesome, Sheth.
You know,
All right, Jason. Let's get this wrapped up.
We're actually, by the way, Sheth, you're gonna take over for Jason from now on.
See you later, guys.
You don't have anything to
Take
do
off
Tuesday
headset.
9 to 11, do you? Nothing at all whatsoever. Not like you got a career to support or anything like that.
Wow. No. I got to be honest. That's the first time anybody's ever done that to us on the show, and it was actually really cool, very refreshing. Sheth, you're awesome. You really are. You really do have a place in esports that we need more people like you. We really do. Because there's a lot of people that do the IDRA, that do the Destiny, that BM. I believe Destiny on his stream recently referred to us as an interesting word to say the least, a group of people. But I won't repeat it because it's not really necessary at this point. But at the other end of the spectrum, you can't. Well, although, you know what? Why am I saying this? You did BM us here. What?
So Jason had that internal urge where he was like, "Oh my God, I've got to be PC," and then it's like, But here's what I will say, Shawn: the kind of questions you ask represent also something else I like about you. You're smart.
Yes.
And unlike me, you don't do the wear it on your sleeve or sometimes I'll rub someone's nose in it. You don't have to do that. You have a subtle, humble approach, I think, that makes so many people love you. And I think that's the kind of inspiration and positive role model that is good. We generally ask the people on the show that we think are making a difference. I mean, obviously, we've had Sundance on, I don't know, probably 8 times now on the show just because, and I think for you, there's a certain magic that people have. I think Marcus has it, DJ Wheat.
For sure.
Obviously, Day 9 has it. I'm picking on really obvious people. But I think for players who are thinking about making the transition, I think whenever you decide to quit playing and you're burned out, I think you found a second calling. And esports will need that experience, the insight that you share. And I think that's going to be good for everybody. So I'm going to actually turn it over now to Jason, who should finish up this show and call it here. So take it away, Jason.
All right, now let's try this a second time without the show being turned around. Any shout-outs before you head out? Sheth, thank you again so much for taking the time out to be on the show tonight, but shout-outs.
No problems. I'll do it quick. Again, TL, Razor, Twitch, and the Laugh Factory. Thank you guys so much, and all of you guys for having me on this show. It's been quite a lot of fun, and thanks for letting me be the host for a little bit, too.
Of course.
Talk about the executive right there, man. Not only did he shout out his sponsors once, he shouted them out twice.
Oh, yeah.
There he is. And now all he needs is he needs to get a shirt with a white tie, and then he can sit next to Big Daddy in the red tie. And they'll be all in their own right.
See you.
All right. Well, Shawn,
take
get
care,
some
all
rest.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Have a good one.
Have a good night, Shawn.
All right. Wow. Good show. Good people. Good stuff. We're a little bit over, but for episode 111, I think having Shawn turn it around was fantastic.
Yep.
I think it was some good questions. If anyone was feeding them, they were smart. And, I appreciate everybody sticking around. And, Jason, I'll let you take it away from here if you need to.
Most definitely. As always, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors, Control Freak, SteelSeries, Gamer Grub, the band Power Glove for supplying the music for this show. I always see people in the chat asking, oh my gosh, what's that music you guys are playing? That is the band Power Glove. Go check them out. They do some awesome covers of both video game music and Saturday morning cartoon show themes. Awesome, guys. At the same time, this episode we had a lot of people asking about giving feedback. They had ideas, things for that for the show. Our Twitter accounts are always at the bottom of the frame. You can always message any of us here on the show at VVParadise, at Laura Jareth, at ENE Keyhunt. So hit us up. If you want to email me directly, it's paradise@vvv-gaming.com. You can always find the VODs of our show on the VVV Gaming forums, on our YouTube channel, which is VVVV Gaming. Those always come up about the day after we do the show live. And for those that are asking in the chat as well, the show is live every Tuesday night 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. And this has been a really great show. So before we wrap things up, final minutes. Kurt, you can't take too long because we're over already, but shout-outs before we close out the show.
A billion. No, I'm joking. Really just a few important shout-outs tomorrow. Like I said, we just had Jason Lake on the show today. Tomorrow, his show, The Executives, with Chobo Peon as well as Odie from Team Dignitas, will be interviewing the amazing Craig Levine from ESEA and Old School Team 3D. I will be watching live. I absolutely have to. I'm going to rush home and watch it. So I'm excited for that. Everyone else needs to be excited for that and check that out. I don't know the URL. Google it. You can find it. It'll be the name of the show is The Executives, The Complexity. So exactly, Rob Z. God brings up an amazing point. 3 former CGS managers, all on the same on the same show. So Counter Strike. So yeah, really great stuff. Follow me at Twitter on at ENEKeyhunt, and follow Check6 Gaming if you will. We'll be having some pretty cool stuff coming up. We're going to be giving away some CSGO keys. I have decided we have some CSGO keys. We're going to be giving away 3 or 4 of them, as well as some DT eSports products pretty soon. So give us a follow, and we'll try to help out there. That's it, guys.
Jerry,
over to you, buddy.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks again for listening. Busy weekend coming up. Guild Wars 2 beta opens this weekend. I know a lot of our community is going to be playing that. I will probably take a look at it on Friday, and then I will re-examine it again on Sunday, as I have hosting a wild event Saturday night here of friends, of good liquor, and of good food. But really, I want to thank Jason Lake from Complexity for coming on the show. I want to actually really appreciate his real candid answers about some things. And obviously to Shawn. I mean, there's a reason that Manor Bear is Manor Bear, and he makes it fun. This is an exciting time for a lot of people. If you get a chance, I ask all of you to stop by. I know a lot of you often wonder, am I good enough to be in VV Gaming? If you have a passion for esports, if you can use social media, if you can contribute and want to be part of the community, we have a pretty lengthy application process, but I think we have some of the finest people in gaming. And for an organization that doesn't have the top players, that doesn't do what other organizations do, you have to admit our relevancy is not so much a testimony of any one person as it is a testimony to the quality and I would say the strength of the community. So a shout out to the VV community as always, and my most fantastic staff that do so much for us. Back to you, Jason.
All right, let's close out the show by giving some shout-outs to the people that have stayed in the chat for the majority of the show. I've seen Fourth Oracle, seen Rob Z. God, Mega Man 8-Bit, Flozio, Dark Heart, Medusa, Golden Boy hopped in here at the end, VVV Spike, always asking for shout-outs. Here's yours, buddy, specifically for you. But thank you all so much for tuning in, staying for the entire episode. We really do appreciate it. At the end of the show, let's give away that second beta key. We were doing 2 giveaways tonight. We already gave the first winner out earlier. This one right here is for the Ghost Recon beta key that Jerry had let us know that one of our applicants gave so that we can give away. The randomly selected person actually has been tweeting all night for the show, so he actually had a lot of entries that he could win from. But actually, in the chat right now, Suntran, Adam, you actually were selected for the other key, so you just won yourself a Ghost Recon beta key. We'll be getting that over to you, so congratulations there. And I think that just about wraps up the episode, guys. Next week we'll be back same time as always. So Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. We will see you back here next Tuesday night for episode 112. In the meantime, this weekend you got the Guild Wars 2 beta. Have some fun. Enjoy playing. And we'll see you back here next weekend, guys. Take care. Have a good night. Bye-bye.